Welcome back, guys, to another exciting episode of the Be Different KE podcast. I'm so excited to be here. Clearly, life has been happening and we've missed several episodes or some few weeks. We haven't published an episode, but we are back, we are alive, and we don't take it for granted. So today I have a guest. It's interesting. I cannot say much about Chris apart from just saying he's Christopher. And I'm excited for him to make time and come on the Be Different K podcast. And I can't wait to also hear his story. But Chris, introduce yourself.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. My name is Christopher Maero. I think I usually give my introductions professionally and then track back and see how I can give a personal introduction. Yeah. So yes, I'm Christopher Maero. I'm a stakeholder engagement expert or communication expert. Currently working at the African Population and Health Research Center. I've been in this field for several years, close to 11 years now, and I've transcended different sectors. But beyond me being a stakeholder engagement expert, I'm also a father, I'm a dad, and I'm married. I have a wife, of course, and with 3 beautiful kids. So basically that's the introduction I can give at this point. Probably we can probe further, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Welcome to Be Different K podcast, Chris. So definitely, of course, the question I ask first, and I told you this, we ask, what do you think you have done differently in your life?
Well, differently, I would capture different things that have happened in my life since I was born. Yeah. But when I actually knew that I'm doing something different is back from high school. Mm-hmm. In high school, when immediately I joined, I was so interested in joining the drama club. Okay. But then I didn't join immediately. Mm-hmm. I wanted to see what is happening in that school. It was so prominent at that point in time, the school that I joined, of course. And so I wanted to see how it was going, and at some point the patron came and noticed me in the course of term 1. Of course, drama was already happening and things were going on. And they poached me and got me into drama, and I did so well in the kind of performance that I was doing that by the time I was leaving high school, I was so popular. And so from that point I knew probably I was a little bit different in what I was doing. Yeah. And so I carried this bit of being deliberate in being unique across different facets into campus. And even after campus, I immediately got a job, immediately like 2 weeks after.
Just before you go, are you trying to say you're dramatic? Like how did whoever picked you pick you?
I was so good. I don't know how to describe it.
I love that.
It came out in primary. Okay, probably I started from...
Just say what happened that whoever picked you, because you were observing and then you were picked from what you've said.
In primary, I performed very well in class 8. Drama, not academic. Okay, academically also well, but in drama I also performed well. Okay. And so this guy, I think, spotted me at that point. And so when I joined high school, I didn't join a drama club immediately. And so I waited it out.
But the person
knew me from my performance in primary school. And so that's what brought in.
I thought you were just walking around being dramatic, and the man was like, you have a talent. Those are those things people think about, like you just want. Yeah. Anyway, go on.
Yeah, but I think he spotted the talent. He spotted the talent, and he was really eager to see me contributing to that.
Was it dancing? Was it speaking? Was it narration, solo performances?
It was actually narration, and at that time, the institute. Okay, it's French School Kamsinga.
Oh, nice.
And at that point, French School Kamsinga was so known for doing the narration style of things, telling stories. And so I was good at that, and so I was poached into that and taken up through that. But then that's what actually set me aside, because then within me I saw that I was actually unique in how I was doing things. And so I came out, and even career-wise, when I got to the point of doing my stuff, I actually was more deliberate, and I was always looking forward to being unique, or bringing something new, bringing a new feel to whatever I was interacting.
So being that good and artistic and all, what did you end up studying for? Because now you're separating these two. You're saying, yes, I was good here, but then academics, I was also good, but it's...
Well, I ended up studying communication and public relations, and at that point it was I think it was just starting. The field was just starting in the country, And so I got into it. I went to, at that point it was called Narok University College.
Okay.
But then it transitioned while I was still there into Masai Mara University. And so that's where I did my undergrad. And I would like to say that again, the uniqueness came in play because I was immediately, during attachment, I was immediately posted somewhere where even once I was done with the attachment program, they still called me back to help do an event for them. And so from that point, I think that started culminating into.
Sure. So how did you end up in health? How did you end up in health now? So you've finished school, you've entered the industry, and
Well, in the healthcare setup, I after campus, I got a job at Cause Impact Limited as a communication and public relations assistant. That's where I started. And you see, as an assistant, you're thrown into different bits and pieces. So you're doing events, you're doing media engagements, you're doing social media, you're doing all those kinds of things. You're doing content creation, you're doing all those things. So I would like to say that broadened my scope. And from time to time, I started being engaged in clients, high level or high profile clients, for lack of a better word. So that engagement sort of propelled me. I after Cause Impact Limited or Impact Africa Limited, I got into Aga Khan University as a communication and advocacy officer. And you see now health, I started now getting into that health space because then from Aga Khan University, I then got an engagement and sort of transitioned to the African Population and Health Research Center because of the kind of work that I've done with Aga Khan University. And so they saw the talent in me, but at the same time they saw the kind of contribution I can give. And given that this is a continent-wide kind of institution, so I felt, or they felt, that I would be a more useful resource at the end of the day. So that's my transition that is across up to the healthcare sector.
So what is it? What is that one thing? Do you feel like you're learning as you go, especially on the health side? Because there's just finish first. What is, I'm asking, what is that specific thing that you feel propels you?
Well, that's
passion. Do you think your passion? Do you learn as you go? Are you?
It's a combination of things. It's a combination of things. I learn as I go, and I'm a huge proponent of the fact that you keep on learning. Each and every day you keep on learning something new. And so I open myself to that. I never say that I'm perfect. And so I learn those things as I move, but at the same time, it's also the passion in me. Or I'm trying to use the word deliberate in a way, being deliberate in whatever I do. Yeah, that once I get a certain assignment, I put myself out there and do it to the best of the knowledge and the expertise I have to ensure that it has an impact to the next person. Because in the kind of work that I do, it's about the next person that I'm interacting with. We keep on saying, and in the communication sphere, you'll hear about target audiences. What I've learned is you're not dealing with target audiences, you're dealing with stakeholders. People who have a share, people who have something to benefit from what you're doing. And so that is what has driven me up to that point. You could call it passion, you could call it being deliberate, but at the same time you could call it being, it's actually passionate.
So when you were growing up, what did you say? I want to be this and this when I grow up. I want to be this and that when I grow up.
As I was growing up, I wanted to be a pilot.
I like that.
And then life happened along the way. I wanted to be a pilot. I got into high school. I thought, well, and I think you've had this story before, that once life starts happening, you feel like even if I'm a bus driver, that would make sense, right?
At this point,
and as
okay. But though, what really happened? Where did you drop that dream, or where? Can you point a finger to where you dropped it?
And now that's the thing. I never really dropped it.
Okay.
I still feel that I'll
changed.
pursue it. It changed, and probably it's because of the kind of setup that society has. For lack of a better word, we have a culture as a country that you need to perform for you to pursue. Okay, you need to perform. You need to be good in math. You need to be good in physics, in chemistry, and all those things, so that you pursue a certain line.
Yeah.
And so I think with that in place, I felt that, okay, let me take a different trajectory, so that I start with what then society wants me to do.
All right.
And then work towards now what I want to do, what I want to be at the end of the day. Yeah, so hopefully I'm doing this communication, and I'm doing it deliberately. So I'm not saying yes, it was an option, but since it's an option that I got myself into, now it's not an option anymore. I'm doing it as the main thing, day to day, from point to from whatever country, in whatever scope. I'm doing it deliberately, but at the end of the day, I'm also focused that I'll also transition and get my space within the aviation sector. And probably it's good that you brought it up, because with me being a pilot, where I got my attachment was that the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority.
Oh.
And again, I was doing communication there, of course, as a communication intern, as a communication consultant. It gave me the feel of aviation, and it still is deep down within me that one day
Did you
I'll
ask
get to that
questions
point.
when you were there? Did you do some research?
Yes, I asked a lot of questions. I had days when I actually sat at the tower, just watching the planes land and take off, and writing stories about what I'm seeing and putting them out there. I really asked a lot of questions. Whenever I got chances to sit with engineers, to sit with pilots, I really wanted to ask them, how does it feel being up there? How does it feel being in control? And so that I kept on asking, kept on inquiring, and I think that also was a pleasure point within me, that I was fulfilling that pleasure, that thing within me.
Our parents are I feel like they're usually the number one representative of support system and society. So where are they at? Like your guardians, your parents, like did they also want you to be a pilot when you grow up? And then when things were changing, were they changing with it?
I don't know how to answer that question. Hopefully my parents don't see this.
It should come out as a story.
But
no,
yeah,
you're not
this
pointing
is just
fingers.
a story, yeah.
We're not pointing fingers.
Yeah, my parents were so supportive.
Yeah.
At the start, yeah. But then it got a point where my sister and I got into boarding very early in life, and we sort of had to find our way as we moved along. And even when in primary, when I was in drama, I had mentioned drama, they're like, what's happening? What are you doing? Yeah, we thought
that was primary.
That was primary, and I was like, what are you doing? But I went on with it, and I was actually the best performer in terms of narration in that year, and so I picked that as I went along. So I wouldn't say my parents were there. They were there. I would say they were there, and I would say they were supportive in their own way.
Did they come around when you became good, better, best in the drama? Because you still, like you said, you still were picked in high school. You still went ahead and pursued.
I don't think they never came around to this date.
They've never come around.
To this date, I don't think they ever came around to the kind of trajectory my life took. My dad was an accountant. He was a math guy, and for him, I think his vision was for me to follow in that footstep, to be in that line of following what he was doing, kind of.
Sure.
But yeah, so I wouldn't say, I don't know. Hopefully they're coming around. There's a time I did a story. I usually do opinion editorials on newspapers, national newspapers. And there's a time my dad saw it, because I never pushed him. I don't usually push him. Sometimes he just stumbles on a story. He likes reading newspapers, and he stumbled on a story. I've done many, and this was the day he stumbled on one. It was like, he called me and said, "You're the one who wrote this story?" I said, "Yes." "You sure?" I said, "Yes." "This is very nice." I said, "Super.
Good.
Okay, see you later." Yeah, thanks. So I think
you guys didn't talk about it again.
Yeah, but I think
you didn't say, "I'm coming, let's talk about it when I come."
No. I think that's his way of showing love. His way of showing appreciation. It's his way of Yeah, and so that I understood at that point. So I think my parents they've taken that 360. They're getting to that point where they're actually saying, oh, so this is what you're doing, and this is what you meant. And that is what I'm deliberate about. That in life, as I grew up, I was deliberate about a certain thing, and no matter what circumstances on the side, whether my parents were expecting something or the society was expecting something, I treaded my path, and I'm getting there, and I'm moving with it. I think they're coming.
Is there at any one point where you felt the push and pull of the pressure to decide based on the people and the pressure to decide based on what you want, and several, I don't know whether you have several examples of that in your life where you've had to...
Yeah, there have been pressure points. There have been pressure points here and there. When I did my KCPE, I expected to be among the top cream de la cream in the country. I wasn't. When I got my results, I was actually totally disappointed. When I got into high school, I was, again, I got into drama, of course, that side. But on the other side, the academic bit, I wasn't performing as I would have loved to. And that had its own pressure on me. And even the course that I ended up selecting, of course, it had its own bit. But again, I'm looking at it that I was deliberate about what I was doing. I was set that fine, this is what is happening in my life, let me move in this way.
Can you please describe for me that the distance, the time between the result came out and then...
Which results?
The Form 4 results.
The Form 4 results.
And between university. Yes. Please, just briefly describe for me that.
So, Form 4 results, immediately, once I was done with the exams, got out. Since I was huge, I wouldn't say a celebrity at that point, that age group, but I was known. I was very good. I was popular.
It is popular.
I was popular, and so I got into doing some work with schools training drama, and that bit. So I was training drama in a school in Western, St. Bridget's Girls. It's somewhere in Kiminini, the Kimilili and Kiminini, and while we were training, the same week we were having a performance somewhere. The same week our KCSE results were coming out. And the guys we were training with, of course, we were from Friends School Kamsinga. At that time it was known. And these guys, we sent out our results, the SMS code, and the results were trickling in, and these guys were getting A's beside me. We were having a performance, kids on stage performing, and results are coming in, they're popping, they're getting the text messages, and I'm still waiting for mine.
And
I'm like, guys, because the guy showed me, hey. I was like,
okay, you guys had mobile phones then. I think I need to go on.
It was the Motorola C1 the blue things that look like a basso. Like
yes.
So these guys got the results, and I'm sitting there and I'm still waiting. And of course, when my results got in, I was like totally disappointed because it wasn't what I was expecting. But I moved with it, and that led me to campus, of course. And in campus again, whatever I selected.
No, they came out. You knew the process. Did you go through, which process did you go through for choosing schools? Did you go for parallel or the government? No, those.
So we're done with the drama. I was training drama. I had to go back home and now strategize and see what is happening with my payrolls and agree that this is what you're doing.
It's a very important process.
Very important, right? So I went back home, and there's a very good friend of mine. He's currently a general manager in an insurance company in South Sudan. He's a homeboy, so we caught up, and he was like, he'd also passed. He was in Kapsabet Boys. Also passed pretty well, but he sat me down and told me, look, because I told him, Mazemi, I want to be a pilot. I don't know where my parents will get money for me to go to South Africa. At that time, South Africa was the one that was offering training. And I don't come from a privileged background per se. I come from a background where we struggle to day by day from point to point, because at some point my dad lost his job. So this guy sat me down and told me, look, this is the reality. And for some reason, this guy was mature at that point, and he was so young. And he told me, he told me, look, your parents don't have the money that you think. You want to put up pressure that they wouldn't be able to handle. Yeah? You want to go to University of Nairobi, you want to go to KU, you want to go to those institutions. What do you want to go to do there? Whatever course you're trying to select won't be productive to you or to the society. And I think that's one of the guys that also cemented the deliberateness in me.
Okay.
Because he then told me, look, we have this, and it was during Kibaki's time, so these satellite campuses were really, really up and booming. And so he told me, look, you're very good in speaking, in engaging. Why don't you go out and select a course that actually blends with you, that complements you? Looking at what you've done in drama, you're so good, man. So he told me, why don't you do journalism? I was like, no.
And the other one,
I was like, no, I don't want to do journalism. He sat me down and he looked at a number of courses, and then he saw communication and public relations. It looked fancy, and I was like, maybe. And then he said, okay, so we'll go with you to revise, because you had to revise because you had already put up your hopes high.
And you'd chosen schools,
you'd chosen schools. So you had to revise and work backwards. So now with the results, he escorted me to Kakamega, because we were doing regionally, so I had to go back to Kakamega. Actually, home was in Eldoret, so I had to go to Kakamega and do the revision. And yeah, so communication and public relations, we checked around. The guy was like, peak, and I selected first choice. I don't know what I put. Second choice, I put Narok University College. Third choice, I was selecting for the sake of selecting.
I like that, because do you know how those moments are defining, and yet you see the status of your mind and heart at the time?
Yeah, and I was like, just doing it for the sake of you've told me to go revise? Okay, let me revise. So I'm just ticking stuff on the paper, and I'm like, I'm done. Submitted the revision fee, and I'm like, are you happy now? Because I was with my friend, and he said, let's go home. And so we went home. I only received one letter.
From that one school.
Of all the options, not even the first option came through. The second option, that's why I received my letter. Narok University College. And that's why I went. And I accepted my fate. I was disappointed. I had so much hopes to be a pilot, to be that. You know, there's a standard that society has put about certain careers.
And
so
there's also a standard that you've put upon yourself. Do you know those are the hardest to fight?
Exactly.
That's the hardest to
Exactly. And I had to find a way to fight that. I had to really be humble, and this is something that then my mom comes in so prominently, because then she was like, Chris, you're not a failure. You're not a failure. And she was candid enough in telling me that whatever you're going to do, do it to the best.
All right.
Be that person that whenever they're looking for comms kind of people, that you'd be one of those people that are picked up and said, pick this guy. So I had to, of course, when you're being told this advice, you want to cry, you're so, but yeah, I got to that place where I became humble and said, look, this is where I'm going with this, and let me move.
Have you had to change your perception of yourself through school? Because now I know you entered there with the mentality that has been, it's like being told pole pole, so the kidonda is almost like just dressed, but not dealt with,
So I had to, things had to happen. Things changed in my life. How I looked at life, I totally changed. And so the funny thing is, on day one in campus, when I got into campus, I traveled with a guy from Eldoret to Narok. It's a very long drive, by the way. It's close to 8 hours, LD2. And so as we were traveling, I didn't know this guy. We were going to be in the same class. He was from West Pokot, so I think from West Pokot he traveled overnight or early morning, go to Eldoret, then we got into the same mat, and as we were traveling, we actually bought some tea in Kericho, and it was like we shared moments at that point. And this guy he became a very close friend of mine. But anyway, on day one in campus, we were set at a pavilion somewhere, and we were told, hey guys, so you need to pick a class representative, you need to pick so that we are clear. And as you are interacting with people in the same course, of course this guy was there, he said, this guy, Chris, is our class representative. And people like, Chris, and it just came up. And so there was that, and I appreciated and I acknowledge that I'm also that kind of charismatic guy. Yeah. When I sit and it's not being proud, it's about the effect that I have on people. That I sit, I give a different kind of mindset, and so I acknowledge that and said, probably I've changed, I'm maturing into that kind of person.
Yeah.
Because then if people are able to give me that responsibility to represent them at that point, then I felt, okay, then there's something they're seeing in me that I need to appreciate and acknowledge and take it up and own it. That this is the person that I am. So I picked that up and moved with it as I was studying in campus. Yeah.
So when did you say, Nyewe, I'm good at this? When did you acknowledge through your studies? Because you see, when you're writing your CVs or application letters, what you say there really shows whether you believe in yourself or not. So when did you like, by the way, I'm good at this thing, I can ace it in this, communication field?
Yeah. Something happened in campus.
Yes.
Even as a class representative, I hadn't matured enough. I acknowledge that, yes, I was maturing, but I hadn't matured enough. And in campus, in second year, I got a very lovely girlfriend. Very lovely girlfriend. And things are happening here and there, of course, campus vibes here and there. We ended up getting into the family way back in third year, second year, transitioning into third year. And I was like, this has happened, and let's move with it. Yeah, let's go ahead with it. I'm not relenting. I'm not backing down. I think to the point where I'm sure about my emotions. But again, remember I said that I'm still maturing. Yeah?
We forgive you.
I'm still this young guy who's.
Yeah, sure.
But I said, Madam, we are going ahead with this. We are doing this together.
Yeah.
This has happened. Let's move on.
Yeah.
So I think also getting into the family way at that point also had a bearing in me. And I was taking life from that point henceforth. Of course, it's not that I wasn't serious. If you look at what I did in first year and second year, I was part of the top students in communication and public relations. But then I picked it in earnest with whatever had happened in my life at that point and moved along with it. And by the way, both of us were again top students.
All right.
So both of us, we went with it. Yes, this has happened in our lives, and props to her mom, was very, very supportive at that point. There's no mom, I think, at this point in time would say, hey, this has happened. No. She was very supportive.
Yeah.
And so that really also molded me in how I was taking up my career, because then it was
you were
at
about
the back
to
of
be
my
a
mind.
dad.
I'm a dad.
Oh, you were now
Yeah,
looking
I'm
at
about
yourself
to be a
as
dad. I was looking at myself as a dad, but at the same time, I'm looking at myself in terms of there's something that society has put in place that a man needs to provide for their family. It's subject to discussion, but a man needs to provide for his family. And yeah, so I took it up in earnest, and I said, let me be very focused in how I do this thing.
Okay.
At the end of the day, it means I need to get a job.
Yes.
At the end of the day, there's something I need to put in place. And I also took up the long holidays. Whenever we had the long holidays, I did odd jobs. Okay. I was a porter in a hotel in Eldoret. I did painting. I was painting for Mjengo. So you go to Mjengo and you're like painting houses so that you can get something at the end of the day. Like you keep in your pocket, not as your pocket money, not just as your pocket money, but at the end of the day, something that can support whatever is happening in your life. You're becoming a dad, you're becoming a parent, so it means there are a number of things. And again, props to my to my friends, because they kept on saying that, look, you can do this. Wow. So just go ahead, and since you've set your mind to it, just go ahead with it and move along with it. So I worked with it, and here we are.
So that's where you settled. And that's why you're like, you know what, I have to do this, I have to be a dad, I have to provide, therefore I have to ace it in whatever it is that I have on my hands.
Exactly.
You stopped questioning.
I stopped questioning. And I had to shelve, I'm not saying that then I had to set aside my dreams, but I had to, like that ambition where I wanted to be a pilot. I said, okay, let me put a pause to it. Because when I was getting into campus, I was like, let me do this comms and PR. And then once I'm done, I'll find a way to do this aviation thingy. I'll find a way I can do whatever I can do to get into aviation. But so life happened, and so I said, let me relook. And I think what I appreciate, and probably what most people need to appreciate, is there are these points in time that happen across your life that you need to take a pause and reflect.
Very defining moments.
And you need to be alive to reality. Okay? That this is what is happening in my life right now. This is probably the best trajectory that I can take at this point now, as I look at how I can transition into different things along the way. So I settled. I accepted my situation at that point and agreed that let me do whatever I can to ensure that things work. Of course, things never work 100%, but let me find a way that things actually are moving ahead in my life from this point onwards.
I like it. You were about to rush us, Chris. You were about to skip all that and just rush us through this story. So that was one very big defining moment.
Yes, yes.
And going now into, I wanted to make a comment there, but now going after school first, and now you're officially certified and you can, now go ahead and look for jobs. Did you wait for it? Did you just get it? Did it come to you? You said you interned at Kenya Civil. How did you?
I interned at KCA, the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority, and the manager there
was
really...
Was it immediately after school?
Just before in third year. Internship attachment is in third year, right? So third year I did my attachment, and the guy was like, hey, my guy, once you're done with school, you'll come back here.
Wow.
And I was like, good, because at that point you're doing press monitoring, you're doing some events here and there. You're not, but he wasn't. He felt like, hey, this guy can do this thing on his own.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's very good.
And so from that point, he was like, I need you back. And so I did my attachment. In fourth year, I was doing my exams. The guy called me and said, we have our new headquarters. By the way, KCA, if you've ever been at the airport, they were at the same office where the Kenya Airports Authority is, KAA. Yeah. So they were transitioning from that office to a new one. What you currently see as KCA, the aviation house. I think they call it aviation house now. You can see it as you're entering the airport. And so they were launching it. And the girl was like, we're launching this thing, we need you. I was like, okay, I'm preparing for my exams. It said, just come over for like 2-3 weeks. You can come on and off, just so that you can plan this thing. And I came to Nairobi. At that point I was staying with my uncle. My uncle lives in Dandora. And so I came, stayed with him, and every day I was going to aviation house, planning this thing and seeing how it goes out. So so that happened, and I got a small job. I was paid, nothing much. I was paid, I don't know if I need to say any.
It's okay, say it.
I was paid 11,000
for that job. I was paid 11,000 for the launch.
Yeah, for the launch of the aviation.
All right. Back then, I hope it was a lot.
It looked a lot, because for me at that point I needed money. Of course, right now when I'm looking back at it, I'm like, 11,000
for a launch. Anyway, we forgive them. But here, let me ask: has the baby come when you're doing exams? Yeah,
the baby is there.
Okay.
He's there. He's but now what we had to do, and that's why I'm saying props to, okay, she rested, of course, but my mother-in-law, she came in through because she said, look, you have your baby, bring him. I can stay with him for this time, finish your studies, then we'll see how things progress. She took it upon her, and she was very glad about it. She took the baby and took care of him.
Both of you finished school?
And we finished school.
Oh, wow.
We never paused, we never stopped.
Oh, wow.
By the time the baby was coming, by the time the baby was being born, Leon, his name is Leon. Leon was being born today. In 2 days, we are starting our end of semester exams. But my wife, and she's called Kate, Kate and I found a middle point where we supported each other and were able to do our exams.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
And that happened. And so she's...
So when you're being called to Nairobi, you know me, I'm trying to connect these two stories. When you're being called to
Nairobi
to come and do the launch event. All right. And this
That's
is...
fourth year.
And this
the baby came in third year.
All right.
The baby came in third year. Probably I should have mentioned
yes,
this. It was actually the final examinations in
for
third year.
All right. So it's a year later. All right.
A year later. So I'm coming to Nairobi to again try and get some shillings here and there and see how things are going. So I did the launch, went back to school, completed studies. But even before I completed my studies, I was sending out applications. Just whenever I sit, I Google public relations organizations in Nairobi, in Kenya, and I'm sending out my application letters and my very short CV, one-page CV to different people. So I'm done with studies. So I agree with Kate, because Kate now had to go back. I had to go back to Eldoret. We aren't officially together
at the time,
for that understanding. And so she's like, okay, sawa, we'll keep on talking. And by the even as we were leaving, we were separating, I felt like, will we still meet? Something within me was like, tutaenda kupatana na udem tena kweli.
Life is going
to happen or something. But I was like, okay, that's fine. So she went, I went to Eldoret. And in Eldoret, when my parents saw me, I read it in their face like, oh, so you're here. So I got back to LD. I'm calling, because during the long holidays I was working at a hotel. I'm calling this guy and telling him, oh yeah, so I'm done with my studies. In case anything comes up, just let me know. And at the hotel I was being paid 8,000 every month.
Wow.
8,000 Kenya shillings. So I was like, come on, if I can get this 8K, maybe it can go a long way.
Sure.
So he told me, okay, fine, I'll let you know if anything comes up. So I kept on calling here and there. I'm just sitting in the house trying to see what can I do. So one day, as I'm just taking a walk outside, I get a call at around 3, was it 3 or 4 p.m.? I get a call on the Motorola C113 that I had.
You're a phone for you who has a phone. Man, Chris, let's just say you are over there.
That phone was durable right from the time I was training drama through high school, through campus.
That time you're finishing campus.
And through campus,
you had phones.
I had the C113. The ADOs was just coming up, the IDOs and stuff. So I get a call. And a lady introduces herself and tells me, hi, my name is so-and-so. I'm calling you from, that time it was called Impact Africa. And there's an email I sent to you. Have you seen it? And I'm like, I've not seen an email. We're having interviews tomorrow. I was just checking in if you'll be available to attend this. I couldn't say no. I couldn't say I'm in Eldoret. I just said, yes, I've not seen the email, but I'm going to check it immediately. I'll be available for the interview tomorrow. So you're scheduled to have the interview at 11 a.m. Kindly ensure that you're here earlier so that we prep. Now, Nekesa, I'm in Eldoret.
At 3 p.m.
At 3 p.m. My parents don't even know what is happening. So I was just taking what we call Raundi Mwenda around the neighborhood. And so I had to rush back home and tell my mom, somebody called me. They told me, there's a job. I need to be in Nairobi by 11 a.m. tomorrow. And she was like, just pack what you can and move. So I don't have official clothing. My dad got some shoes that he was using before. Some trousers that he was using, some very baggy trouser and a shirt. I just said, that's fine.
Walikuchangia nguo.
Walikuchangia nguo. But something that probably I missed mentioning before getting to this kuchangiwa nguo is that some point before, I can't really remember which year this was, I also did some work with a guy. He's now a pilot, but he was a very huge, he's an old boy, French school come singer. He was very good in drama. His name is Jimmy Wanjala. And at some point he invited me to Nairobi to work with him. I don't know, I don't remember which year this is, but for some point it will piece in.
Yeah.
And so I got some tunes again from that gig that I did, because we did a storytelling session at Safari Park for the minister for EAC at that point. What's his name? Mutula, Dr. Mutula Kilonzo at that point. And we did that gig, and I got some tunes. I got like 16,000 thereabout. And so I kept this.
Okay.
And so as things are happening in my life, and when I'm being called for this job, I had, of course, loaned my mom some money in anticipation that it will come back. Okay, she was very gracious, and so she gave me this money along the way. So so now I need to pack, come to Nairobi for the interview. Nimechangiwa nguo. So I got into a North Rift and traveled overnight. I called my uncle while I was in the North Rift and told him, by the way, I'm coming to Nairobi. And probably I would like to take a pause at this point because, again, my uncle is one of those people that also supported me so much. During attachment, I was staying at his place. Whenever I'm coming for these gigs, I'm staying at his place. And what is happening is, when my dad lost his job, he was working in Nairobi. He was transferred to Eldoret, so we moved to Eldoret. Then he lost his job while I was still in primary school. And things just happened in life. You are used to a certain life where when you wake up in the morning, you can get your cup of tea, you can get your toast bread, but then life just, and you're back to, you're not really sure if you'll get that cup of tea. And so as we are going through that in Eldoret, my uncle came through, because from point to point I would call him and ask him for 100 bob, for 50 bob for airtime and things, and he would send. And so he came really handy whenever I was coming to Nairobi, because even as I'm coming for this interview, at night, the only person that I can call is my uncle in Dandora, and he says, it's fine, you come. And wherever he's inviting me to stay is not, you would imagine that it's a very nice place or something. It's not, for lack of a better word, it's not what you'd expect for a day-to-day, a place you'd live on a day-to-day basis. It's a single room, so it means you need to sleep on the floor. He's sleeping up there, and things are not just as you'd want. There's only one washroom in the whole plot. They call it plot, so it's a street of houses, and so you're sharing the washroom, you're sharing the bathroom, and the water is being rationed. Water comes once in a while at 3 a.m. in the night.
I love to wake up and line up.
You need to wake up at 3 a.m. and line up and get the water. So as all this is happening, my uncle is very supportive. And he says, you come in. So I went to my uncle's place at around 4 p.m. 4 a.m. 4 a.m. thereabout. That's when I got to Nairobi and then went to Dandora. It's a very insecure place at that point. But when I alighted, I just walked straight to the house. Nothing happened. So it's and that's why I stayed. So I met my uncle. He got some transport for me, bus fare for the following day, and told me, you just be there early and go and do an interview. Okay. And so early morning I woke up. Okay, I didn't wake. I just slept for like a few hours and then got out of the house and went to Mombasa Road. Met the panel, the interview panel, and did my interview. Went back. I was called for the second round of interviews. I was given a psychometric test, just to fill in a questionnaire, just to understand how I am in tackling different issues. Passed that, and then I was invited for the third interview. So you're coming to meet the boss of the organization. And at that point, I'm coming to meet Miss Kentis Tikolo. She's a huge guru. If you just Google Kentis Tikolo, she's a huge guru in communication and public relations in the country. And so she meets me. We have a quick chat, and she says, "Good, we'll start tomorrow." I'm like, "Huh? Yeah, so you'll come in tomorrow. I think somebody will show you your desk and all that. Good, congratulations." And she leaves.
Wow.
I'm left in the boardroom. Because she's if you interact with Candice, she's fast. She doesn't delay. She's fast. So she
says, the news, finished her business, walked out.
She said, so in case of anything, you can reach out to her. You're good. Then she left.
Wow.
So I stayed in the boardroom for like 5 minutes. It's like a dream.
Yeah.
Like, what is happening?
Yeah.
And so, anyway, so I went back. Of course, I finished the nitty-gritties there, signed the contract. I was told my salary, and I'm in disbelief.
Yeah.
That money,
you're
I didn't imagine that was the first salary I was getting.
You're a working Kenyan citizen.
I'm a working Kenyan citizen,
Yeah.
and this is the first salary.
Yeah.
And so as I'm traveling back to Dandora, I call Kate. Because then now it's been some time. It's been 2 weeks, and probably I didn't mention this.
Oh.
It's 2 weeks after completing studies in.
After school?
Yes.
Wow.
So all this is happening within 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
And so I call Kate and tell her, you won't believe what just happened. I got a job. She's like, what job are you? Because I had been a porter in a hotel. I told her I got an actual job in a communication company. And she was, I could read in her voice that she wanted to scream.
Yeah.
But then so we chatted, and that went that way. So I got into the job. And yeah.
You were deliberate about acing it.
Yeah, I was deliberate about acing it. When we started, of course, I was unsure. Okay, I thought I knew what I'm going to do. Because there are people at the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority who called me back to launch an event. I mean, come on. I thought I'm a guru.
You know you were
I
around.
know my thing.
Okay.
But when I got at Impact Africa, it was a whole shift.
Okay.
And that's why I'm saying I'm always open to learning new things. There's what I learn in class, there's what I learn out here immediately I step out, but there's something else I learn now.
Yeah.
And so it was a whole shift.
Yeah.
At Impact Africa, you're developing strategies, you're doing events, you're doing media engagements, you're doing anything you could think about communication is happening there.
Nice. And you learned your wear 360 degrees.
Immediately, no.
Okay.
Immediately, because I thought I know, I messed up.
All right.
Like for the first 6 to 8 months, I was just flunking things. I was flunking assignments. I was being called into meetings and being told, come on.
Wow.
But for some reason, Kenti saw something in me. Because even as people were leaving, others were just quitting and saying, let me leave.
Okay.
She said, keep on going. Keep on going. Correct this. Do this. And it got to a point where now I started getting what she's saying. I started understanding now this, for lack of a better word, this is the methodology of how you're supposed to do your work.
Yeah.
Whatever kind of work, this is how you're supposed to do it. And when I started getting it, the more I started getting into it, the more I was immersing myself, the more stuff was coming to me, and the more I grew in the career space.
Wow.
And there's something very interesting I learned. For example, the stakeholder mapping. It might be boring. But stakeholder mapping, if you look at any strategic document, you'll see that they draw a table, they put a stakeholder, the name of the stakeholder, and the role that you think that stakeholder plays.
Yeah.
It's clear to you.
You think.
You think.
Yeah.
But then what I learned at Impact is there's a certain tool they're using called a net mapping toolkit. By the way, I'm an expert in that thing. To date, that thing has took me to places across this globe that nothing else would have taken me. But that net mapping exercise, but that's a story for another day. So yeah, something as simple as stakeholder mapping, there's a way that Impact Africa was doing it, involving people, that was so beautiful in my eyes that I captured it immediately.
Nice.
There were my colleagues who had stayed in that organization for over 5 years who are still struggling with that, hoping this video doesn't put me in hot water.
Okay, at least, oh my goodness.
But anyway, there were colleagues, some of my colleagues who were not yet well off with it.
It happened and they were there, and you were also there, so.
But for me, once I immersed myself in that toolkit, I was doing it like I could close my eyes and get out the output and move things. I got to a point where I could do strategies for a number of organizations. I've done strategies for big organizations that you could think of across the globe. And when I was getting to that point, and Kentis was actually appreciating me and clapping for me and saying, you see, you see. And then it got to a point where now I'm applying for jobs, and I'm being called for interviews, and things are happening. And so again, that deliberateness was coming out at the end of the day.
I'm so glad. And especially the part where you said you took time to learn, or you took time to get the hang of it. You know, those 6 to 8 months, and you said even your colleagues left.
Yeah.
You know, some people have those what if moments because they were not patient enough to sit around, to learn, to go through it. Some people, maybe they found themselves, maybe it wasn't their thing, but you found yourself in it.
Yeah.
And the Kentis is another defining moment. I'm picking them up as we go. There was that friend of yours who spoke to you after Form 4. Okay. There's another defining moment in third year, and there's this other defining moment, you know, when Kentis is holding your hand.
Yeah, and I think what we fail to appreciate is most of the times we look at ourselves and say we know too much. We can't learn more. That's a mistake that you usually make. Because I feel every day there's something you learn. There's something that you think you know, but you don't know. Yeah. And so with Impact Africa, I learned so much that was the grounding of the kind of work that I'm doing to date. Most people call me asking me to support them. And whatever kind of work I'm going to do for them is the kind of work that I learned at Impact Africa. Yeah. Right now, I'm a senior advocacy and knowledge management person at African Population and Health Research Center. Whatever I'm doing for them is whatever I learned from Impact Africa.
Wow.
I've gone ahead to use this skill set to influence mental health projects or initiatives in Senegal, in Sierra Leone, to some extent in Liberia and in Malawi, because of what I learned at Impact Africa.
Wow.
And so I believe these things that you usually take for granted, you need to always take a step back. Pause, reflect, and look at what the other person is doing. And try to get as much as possible, soak in as much as possible, because whenever I immediately step from this set, there's something I learn. The first step I take away from this. So I'm a huge believer of learning on the go and moving with it, learning, relearning, and all that.
Wow, I love that, Chris. What keeps you up at night? So when you go to bed, you know, when you close your eyes, that last thought, what's that last thought about yourself, about your life? When you look at it, you know, like, there
are a couple of things.
Yeah.
One is the family that I have, of course. Sometimes that keeps me up at night, because I usually look at myself and say, I need to set an example that these kids or this family becomes a responsible citizenry within the country.
So wait, you and Kate, because now we are like reading the novel. It's you and Kate?
All right. So by the way, Kate, so when I called her, she came to Nairobi, and I had to move out of my uncle's place, and we went to Umoja to some place, and we started life.
Oh, nice.
By the way, interestingly enough, we started an event company.
Oh, nice.
We bought some tents and seats. It flopped. It flopped. We sold those things.
Yeah.
There are instances in my life between Kate and I that we have had differences. Given that we are young, we are very young, and we hadn't experienced life. And now life is coming to experience with us together. And there are differences, and you find that at the end of the day, you're mad at how she's doing things, and things happen. But up to date, we are together.
Oh, wow.
Kate and I have been together since campus up to now as we speak. She's the one that...
So yeah, you were talking about your family. So I just wanted to get that, and now you can go back to answer how you're being a role model.
Yeah, so we have, of course, family keeps me up at night. But at the same time, other than just family, what keeps me up at night is making a difference in lives of people.
Okay.
Now, you might have heard this from many people differently. But what I want to do, or what I usually see myself doing on a day-to-day basis, is using the skills that I have to touch on the life of that one person in the country, in this county, in the country, or in the region. Just one life that can be changed. That is what keeps me up at night. And so, I've sharpened my skills to the point where whatever I do, I do it with the aspect of having an impact. You know, there's something in monitoring and evaluation. When you're doing an M&E framework, you'll have your output, outcomes, and impact. Sometimes, and people, that probably is a weakness, because I don't focus on the outputs and outcomes much. I focus on the impact that activity has. And for everyone that has interacted with me, that's how I work.
Oh, nice.
So I usually, I'll sit up at night, look at the task that I'm doing, if it's a report, if it's a story, if it's what kind of content that I'm coming up with. I'm trying to see how can it influence the next person. And influence comes in different ways.
Sure.
It can be either it will lead to you getting better services from government. It might be that you will have better collaborations or partnerships between people that can actually help that one person or many people.
Yeah, sure.
It can be those aspects. It can be that you'll get information that will change how you think about something. For example, something that I learned recently is that malaria, you know, you might think it, and it's a fun fact. You think that malaria is caused by the Anopheles mosquito. That's what you know.
I think so.
You think so? The Anopheles mosquito. The mosquito.
It comes, it bites you,
and you get malaria. Something really funny happened recently, because I was told that might not be the case. The mosquito is just a victim.
Oh, it's also just...
The mosquito is just carrying.
Oh.
It's just carrying malaria from you to somebody else.
Oh.
So malaria inherently, it's within you. No, okay, it's not within you. You'll get infected with the plasmodium from one mosquito to the next. If you don't take your medication to the fullest, that malaria, if you don't finish your medication, it means you'll sleep under a net, but if a mosquito comes and bites you and bites the next person, that person will get malaria. And it has all these ramifications around how we understand, how we usually take things on face value. And then that now boils into my communication expertise and being deliberate. That then why or how do we shape messages that actually inform that person in CIA that if you don't take your medication to the fullest, it doesn't matter. Your kid will be infected with malaria. Your spouse, the people around you will still get the malaria that you're trying to fight, even if you sleep under a net. And so there are these things, and that's what I'm saying, they need to be packaged in a way, and that's what I'm using my skill set to date, to see that people actually understand and people's lives change for the better.
Wow. I feel like we have really spoken. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. And I felt like this was, I felt like I have, what is it called? You know, the way people remove from a sugar cane, but now I didn't have them. Didn't know that process. Wow. Hey, thank you for coming, Chris. Any parting shot? How has it been being a bit different as you're doing your parting shot?
Yeah, as I prepare for that parting shot, being different has its own challenges.
Yeah.
Because you're going against the grain. People are used to doing something in a certain way.
Yeah.
In our country right now, we're complaining about corruption because we're used to doing certain things in a certain way. And so when you try to go against that grain, you're bound to hit some snags here and there. But again, I feel you take them up in earnest and you find your own way of doing things. You find avenues of making people's lives better. I think at the end of the day, you're looking at enjoying life. That's why you're on this earth. And how can you enjoy life, whether you're in family, whether you're in work, whether you're always doing this thing so that you make your life better. You look at life in a more positive way. And so my parting shot would be that for whoever sees this video, for whoever sees whatever we have discussed here, take life in earnest, to be deliberate about what you're doing. Don't take it in face value, and I think my story tells it all, even by getting at impact. You think you know, but probably you don't know. Or there's something different that might change how you look at things. So be deliberate, be consistent, and just enjoy life.
Wow. Yep. I feel like I've met the first one who can talk. Should come back again and talk again, because I feel like we've just touched the tip of the iceberg. I haven't really asked enough questions that I would have wanted to ask about, especially, you know, your communication in health. I would have wanted to delve deeper and dig deep. But please, let's put a pause there. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for watching. Please comment, like, share, and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you and have a good day.